Hey everybody. Uh, I have already had a couple questions about the Real Utopia project, and I sometimes am sorry that we're not face to face in a classroom so that when one student hears a question, all the students get the benefit of the answer. So I thought that I would just do a recording. I'm going to try to actually do this as quickly as I can without shirking any of the information that you will need to know, but I'm going to try to walk you through the Real Utopias program. So first of all, I've started you in the modules page. You can see over here, right there, this is where we are. And that's so I can show you. You just scroll down until you see the Real Utopias project. And let's just start with the Real Utopias project overview, and everything else will be under that modules area. I'm not going to read to you because you can read yourself. But what I do want to do is I want to just make sure that everybody has clarification on whatever it is that I've asked you to do. And if you have questions after this video, please put them in the hallway conversations, because again, many people have the same questions. If you haven't signed up to be following that hallway conversations, you might want to do that too, so that you get notified when somebody's asked a question, and you can go see what people are talking about, asking, and what the answers are. Maybe help answer if you know the answer. Okay, so let's start first with what is this? What is it about this project? Why are we even doing it? So we are doing this project because these are programs that are up and running. And what we are trying to do is look at them to see if they actually, in fact, are innovative. Now, Dr. Farui, who used the term in the beginning, real utopias, if you know what a utopia is a place where everything is the way that it ought to be and things are working. And I'm not sure that there is any real live program that reaches utopia here on Earth. If there's one somewhere else, it's hard for us to study. But you will notice that the assignment is Real Utopia ? So what we are looking for here is we are looking at a program, hopefully you picked one because you were interested in it, to find out what they are doing that is innovative and that is working, or come back and tell us that you really don't think that this is innovative or you don't think that it's working. This is an investigative assignment. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. You've already done this. You've all signed up for the peer critique, but I'm going to go back in and just make a note to some of you that there's still a couple of you that need to get in there and make sure that you are actually signed up where somebody will critique you, or that you are signed up and have somebody to critique. So for example, Kelly does not have somebody to critique her, but by contrast, Zendaya doesn't have somebody to critique. So Zendaya, I'm hoping that you're going to go sign yourself up here to follow Kelly. Anyway, also I noticed Kelly has signed up for 2 of them, so maybe not. But at any rate, this is interesting, and I'll have to get with Kelly, find out which of these she's doing, but hopefully she's doing the one that Kayla signed up for, because there's nobody down here. But you get my point. Everybody, Ray, for example, you've signed up where there are 2 people. Maybe Zendaya, you move up here, and Ray can do one of these 2, and you can do the other one. But the point is, there are still a few of you who need to straighten yourselves out in terms of who it is you are studying or is studying you. Okay, so here we are back. That was step 1, sign up. Should have all been straightened out, but it hasn't yet, so I just make that note. Okay, Real Utopia readings. This one throws people for a loop. There is step 2. It is an assignment, but what it is not is something that you have to write up. So that was due yesterday. It was a day that I set aside actually just for reading, and hopefully you did. If you haven't, you should know that reading this assignment, this reading, is going to actually help you think about your Real Utopia to help you figure out how to study it. So please read that before you go to step 3. All right, now comes the real work. Developing your inquiry plan. So let me just tell you why I am telling you how to study this Real Utopia. An inquiry plan is your research plan. And I want to explain to you why it is so important to create a research plan. Most people who are undergraduates, when they are asked to do a report, they come up with a topic one way or the other. In this case, your topic is your organization that you're studying, and they plug it into Google, or if they're being very ambitious, maybe they go to the library or they plug it into the search bar in the library, and they just plug it in, right? And whatever comes up, they pick a couple that look like they're going to be easy enough to read or interesting topic or whatever, and they read them, and then whatever they came up with, that's what they're going to write the report on. That is not strategic. And when you are professional, you know that you don't have time, at least not during your workday, to just read anything for any old reason. You need to improve something, you need to build something, you need to create some kind of assessment. Whatever it is you're doing, you have to think very strategically about how to get it done, what you need, and how you're going to get there, right? So I want to teach you to research just as strategically. And I think that if you don't already know how to be strategic about research, it will actually help you as you are going through your professional career and studying the problems that you encounter in your work environment, and help you get very strategic about solving them. And so we're going to start here with this strategic inquiry plan. Okay, so if you haven't already, you've gone to your organization's website. Again, if you haven't already, you should go. You've read everything you can about the organization. And surely while you were reading, some questions came to mind or something interested you. I am giving you the freedom in this assignment to study what interests you. You're going more deeply, but you're going in a direction of your personal interest. So that's great, right? You got to pick your own Utopia program, and now you get to pick your own research direction. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm. You can pick a buddy to do it with, but really all I mean is set aside some time. You don't need a buddy. You can do this by yourself, or if you prefer working in a group, find some people to talk about it with. But just set aside some time to organize your thoughts. What is it that inspired you? What is really interesting to you? What would you like to know more about? Maybe you're thinking about something that you learned while you were reading that could be helpful to you in your real life. You'd like to know more how it worked so that you can connect it up and maybe use it. Maybe it just had something to do with history of the problem. Maybe it has something to do with who are their partners, how do they collaborate, how do they get that to work? Whatever interests you about your Real Utopia program, that is going to be the basis for developing a research plan. Now, some people are benefited greatly by visualizing the connections and so forth. So if you're a linear thinker and you just want to do it on paper, that's fine. But if linear thinking is not your best mode, try watching this video about how to visually map your ideas and help you come up with your questions. All right, now that you have asked yourself all these questions about what's interesting to you and why, it's time to create your research questions. Those are the key questions that you are going to be investigating, okay? All right, there's two different kinds of questions. I just asked you to ask yourself questions about why you are interested. What matters to you? What would you like to know more about? Now you're coming down here, now that you know what you want to research, what you are interested in, we're going to ask questions that you are going to then pursue answers to and create your final presentation out of those answers. But first you've got to create the questions that you're going to research. Okay, so let's take an organization that does an intervention with people coming out of prison. I'm making this up, but let's just assume that I'm studying in such an organization. Maybe what I am interested in is how well did that program actually work over the long term. So I'm going to want to know things like, and I'm making up questions for you, I'm brainstorming questions. So I read about the program, I read about what it is that they offer to people as they re-enter society after prison. And my personal thing that I'm interested in is, can you tell that this really made an impact in the long term of these people's lives? That's my question that I brainstormed myself. That's what I want to research. Now I've got to come up with questions. Okay, so one of the questions I want to know is, do they follow these people down into, the next 5 or 10 years? And if so, how do they follow these people? I want to know, if you ask some people, what did you take away from that program that you are still using today? What would those answers be? And I probably also want to know, what could they have done differently looking back on the program that they were in? What could the organization have done differently that would have been more helpful, or that they didn't do that you see now that would have been beneficial? So I just made up those questions off the top of my head. So that is what I want you to do. You're going to pick out, you might want to be more intentional or more thoughtful than I just was creating the questions, but once you decide what you want to study, you're going to come up with a set of questions that will help you get your answers to the thing you're interested in. Now, I've put together a list here of some questions that, if you're having trouble generating your research inquiry questions, talk these questions through with yourself, and maybe they will help you brainstorm some questions. All right, so once you've come up with questions of the sort that I just suggested, then your next thing to do is actually to write up your inquiry plan. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it, but I came up with these 5 or so questions off the top of my head that will help me get my answer to how impacting their program is in terms of the reentry participants long term. What I didn't remind you is that part of your inquiry plan is, where do you go to find that information? In my case, it's pretty clear that at least some of what I'm going to have to do is go to the organization, maybe see if I can talk to some of the people, 1 or 2 of the people who have been through the program a while ago, and see what they think. But also I might be able to just kind of do some research on reentry programs and see if I can find some best practices for that, and any information about long term. So there's going to be, for me, there's going to be some book or article reading, but there's also, to get the answers that I really want, I'm going to have to go talk to the organization and see if I can talk to them, see what feedback they've gotten from their participants over time. And maybe they've done some write-up on it, see how they're studying it, how they're following it, or if they are. But I also am probably going to want to actually see if there's any alumni that they will let me talk to. So your research has to follow, you have to go after what it is you need to know, whoever that is you have to talk to, and that is part of your plan. Okay, now you're going to write up your inquiry plan. You're going to go to the project discussion board. All right, and it's telling you that you need to stack. So I'm the first person here. I'm going to hit reply, and down here I'm going to set my inquiry plan. When I come back with my presentation, I'm actually going to put it right beneath this. I'm going to hit reply to my inquiry plan and put it down there like that. All right, let's go back. Okay, down here I have a sample inquiry plan. Let's just use it. All right, I'm going to copy and paste it. It'll still be where I put it when you go. All right, so let's go to the Real Utopia's discussion program. This is just a sample. This is not what yours should look like. I gave it to you so you would see what it might look like. All right. All right. So I came up with this fake one. My program is a support program for women who are leaving prison and need help stabilizing as they re-enter free society. By the way, it was easy for me to do this because I'm actually working on a plan like that right now for Arrowhead Foundation locally. Okay, so what am I interested in knowing more about? I'm curious if they've followed the progress of formerly incarcerated women over the years and can tell how much difference their program has made in the long run. Luckily for me. Okay, so how long has the program been going on, and where are the people who went through it? What kind of official follow-up research has the program done, and what has it shown? What are the opinions now about the program from the people who went through it a long time ago? Do they feel it impacted their lives in a meaningful way? And looking back on things, what additional help would they have liked to have, if any? What, if anything, do they wish had been done differently? Okay, and then the last part of my sample plan is where I'm going to go to find that information. Okay, there's my plan. Now, let's back it up here. Now, I'm going to create my Real Utopia's presentation project. What that means is I'm literally going to carry out my plan. I'm going to go do the research in the places I said I was going to do it, and I'm going to answer the exact questions that I asked. If you can't answer the questions you've asked after you've done all the research, if there's one of your questions you haven't been able to find an answer for, if you figure that out soon enough, you can ask me and possibly I can help you find the information or give you an idea of where to look. But if you didn't, then you are going to need to actually explain why you couldn't answer your question, and that will probably be pretty interesting all by itself. But your Real Utopia's presentation is going to be the answers to your questions that you asked to get at your main thing that you are curious about. You're going to write it up, and then you're going to go right back to the discussion board. There is my sample inquiry plan, and I'm going to put my presentation right underneath it so that everybody reading it can look back and see what I was trying to find out, what questions I was doing, and they can see, that way they will be informed. All right, so you're just going to put it right there. Okay, so let's back it up. The last step is critiquing your classmate, all right? Peer review, peer critique. You've got 3 pieces to this. It says you have 2 tools. The one tool is their own inquiry plan. I didn't put it first, but their inquiry plan is, as we just talked about, is their blueprint for what their presentation is going to cover. So one of the things you want to do is check the classmates' presentation against their own inquiry plan to see if they actually followed through on their plan. The second thing is this peer review rubric, which I have right here because for some reason it isn't opening. So I'm going to, I'll fix that after I get off of here, but I'm just going to show you. This rubric, you're going to judge each of these items, all right? You're going to look at the overall content, and you've got 3 categories: good, acceptable, needs reworking. If it's good, that's because the meaning of all your facts, all the facts you're looking at, are clear and understandable. If it's acceptable, most of the content is understandable, but there are places where the meaning is unclear. If the content needs reworking, it's difficult to even follow the author's meaning. All right, this rubric is both for you to use as a critique, but also you might be thinking about this as you're writing your own presentation, because a good presentation will follow all of these items here. Okay? All right, so you're going to use that. You can mark them and then submit them. And finally, you're going to offer substantive comments of your own along with the rubric. So even though I've given you a rubric that's going to look at the form, even though you're going to check your classmates' presentation against their inquiry plan to see if they've actually followed through with their inquiry plan as they laid it out, you are not off the hook for having an opinion. You basically need to come out with substantive comments for your partner, the person you're critiquing, about what is significant and meaningful as you see it in their work. And that will go in the Real Utopia discussion board, but this time not under your own stuff, but instead whoever is, for example, this is fake, but whoever's critiquing my inquiry will come to my inquiry plan and my presentation and hit reply to my presentation and put their response there. Okay, folks, I'm guessing that was 20 minutes. Hopefully you followed it all. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them on the discussion board. If it's something personal, hit me with an email. But otherwise, remember, if you have the questions, so do people in your class, so do your classmates, and they will want to know the answer as well. So I will see you on Canvas. Have fun with this. You are pursuing what interests you. Have a good time with it, and we will see you back up on the discussion board. I believe it's November 7th with your inquiry plan.